Hello and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new here. My name is Veronica and I do videos on motherhood, lifestyle, travel, cooking, and DIY. So if you're interested in that kind of content, definitely stick around. In today's video, I am going to be talking about how I succeeded at breastfeeding my baby as a first-time mother. So if you are expecting a baby and you're hoping to breastfeed, or you have a new baby now and you are wondering about a few tips and tricks or things that might make it more likely that you will succeed at it, then definitely keep watching. So disclaimer time, I just want to say that breastfeeding can be a very, very sensitive topic for women and for parents in general, because it is a choice whether you feed your child by breastfeeding them or whether you give them formula. Some women want to be able to breastfeed and can't. Some women have no desire whatsoever and they want to just go straight to formula. There is no right or wrong way, in my opinion, to feed your child. I really wanted to be able to breastfeed my baby. There are lots of reasons that I wanted to be able to. I'm not going to go into all of them now, but it was a goal of mine. It was something that was really important to me personally, and I really wanted to be able to do it. And I was really worried that I wouldn't be able to. So if this is kind of sounding similar, or you can relate to this, then hopefully what I'm going to talk about in today's video will give you a little bit of hope and a little bit of, I guess, reassurance that if you are struggling, or even if you're not, there are a couple of things that you can do to make it more likely that you'll have a positive experience. So without further ado, I'm going to get into it. And the first thing I want to say is that breastfeeding, for me in any case, and for a lot of women that I know, is not easy. It is a very challenging thing to do, especially in the beginning. Now, when we did our NCT class, or our kind of like baby prep class at our hospital, the midwife was very clear about it. She said that something like 80% of women try to breastfeed and they stop within the first, I think, 2 weeks, and something like only 20% continue. Now, I don't know how accurate these statistics are, but I'm not surprised, because the beginning, or the first, I guess, 2 weeks are really difficult. So my first tip, or the first thing that I did to prepare myself to have a successful breastfeeding journey, was that I was prepared for it to be difficult. And I think if you don't know that it's going to be hard, and you kind of expect this really like magical, oh, I've got this baby who's like suckling and like I'm nourishing them, and oh, it doesn't hurt and it's super easy and everything is natural and there are no potential complications. No, I don't think that is a necessarily realistic, I guess, viewpoint of what breastfeeding is really like. So prepare yourself mentally. I prepared myself mentally. I knew it was going to be difficult. I knew already, because I'd researched it, I knew it was going to be painful. I knew that certain things might not necessarily go smoothly at first, like the baby's latching on. I knew that there could be physical issues like a tongue tie or a lip tie, making the breastfeeding process difficult and hard for the baby to actually do. I knew that my milk might not necessarily come in right away, so the baby might not, you see what I mean? Like, I researched a lot, and I knew of, or at least I think I knew, of all of the potential things that could have happened to make our experience less than ideal, and sure enough, some of them did. So I researched and I was prepared for it to be difficult. Kind of on that same line, the second tip is be prepared for the pain. Now, breastfeeding is a very natural thing. Like, once you get into it and once you kind of get over that initial, like, I don't know what I'm doing, this hurts, this is horrible, am I feeding my baby enough? Once you get over that, you can kind of focus on enjoying the process. But in the beginning, it hurts. Like, it hurts so bad. I don't know if it hurts everyone. Maybe this was just my experience, but I do know a lot of women say it hurts. And it's not like, oh, this is kind of uncomfortable, but I'm gonna carry on. Like, it is painful. So be prepared for it. You need to get nipple cream. You need to make sure that you are really making that baby latch on exactly like they should, because otherwise it hurts. You need to learn a technique to get the baby off if the baby is not latched properly, because trying to get a baby off with like their death grip latch, if they don't want to in the beginning, is just, it hurts. So be prepared for the pain, I guess, would be my second tip, which is linked to kind of research. And when I say be prepared for the pain, I mean, mentally prepare for being really uncomfortable in the beginning. Now, a lot of things are going to be hurting. At least in my case, there was a lot of different elements to the pain. So the first thing that hurt is the actual baby suckling, like the latch on, because your boobs aren't used to it. Like your boobs aren't used to feeding a baby yet. They need to toughen up essentially, and that takes time. So be used to that, or be prepared for that. The second thing is they're going to be sore probably, like your boobs are going to be sore, your nipples are going to be sore. So plan to have some kind of nipple cream or some kind of salve to put on you so that it can kind of calm the pain down a little bit. And I think the other thing that you need to really be careful of and be mindful of is things can go wrong that can cause extra pain. So for example, you can get a clogged milk duct, which I had as well, and that really, really hurt. And this is basically just like a clog on the duct, just like it sounds, where milk kind of can't quite make its way out. And there are ways to deal with it, but you need to know what you're looking for, so you need to be prepared for that. The second thing that can happen is mastitis. Now, I knock on wood, I do not want to jinx it, but this is something that is relatively common that a relatively large amount of women deal with, and it is an infection which often requires antibiotics. So just know the different types of things that can happen and know that they can be quite painful, but if you push through it, over time the pain will diminish and will get easier and easier as things go on, and if you just push through that first 2 weeks, it will get better. Another thing that really helped me in terms of being prepared, so all of these are kind of very, very similar in terms of be prepared, research, know what to expect, because if you kind of have a plan in mind of what you will do if something does go wrong, you're going to be much, much more able to actually deal with it when the time comes. Even if you're sleep deprived, even if you're a new mom, at least you will have these tools or these ideas or the knowledge, I guess, that you need to handle it. So the other thing that I was really prepared for that might have put me off breastfeeding if I didn't know it was normal is cluster feeding. So I really had no idea how often, how long, how much the baby was going to be feeding. But what I did know is that it's normal for babies to feed all the time in the beginning because they're helping you to build up your supply. Now, honestly, I will kind of maybe I'll look back at my little tracking app and see how much Zoe really was feeding in the beginning, but it was all the time, constantly, all day long, all night long. And this is a normal thing. Babies are just really smart and they know that this is what they need to do to help you build up the appropriate amount of milk supply to feed them. So when I say cluster feeding, it's exactly what it sounds like. It is the baby feeding, I guess, in little clusters. So instead of having a full feeding for like 10, 15, 20 minutes and then not eating again for another hour or 2 or 3 hours, she would feed for maybe 5 minutes, and then 10 minutes later, she would be looking for the milk, trying to find out, how she can get some more milk action, and she would have a few minutes of a feed, and then she would come back 15 minutes later. And this would take place pretty much all day long and all night long. Now, if you like sleep, and if you are exhausted, this is probably going to be the second most challenging aspect of breastfeeding in addition to the pain, because it's impossible to sleep if you've got a baby that wants to nurse every 30 minutes or every 45 minutes or even every hour. But if you're prepared for it and if you know that it's not going to last that long, for us, I think it lasted maybe 2 weeks, maybe a little bit longer, until my milk supply was really established and had fully come in. And after that, we were on a much more regular schedule of nursing. But in the beginning, I knew it was gonna hurt, and I knew it was going to be all the time, cluster feeding, nonstop. And the knowledge that this was normal and that everything meant that she was healthy and that the nursing was going like it should really helped. So be prepared, do your research, know what's going to hurt, and know what you're going to do if it does. And if you have issues, kind of have a plan of attack to handle them. The next thing we did, and I knew already, even before a baby arrived, whether I had issues or not, that I wanted to have a lactation consultant come to the house and just kind of have a look and make sure that everything was going as it should. Now, we left the hospital less than 24 hours after Zoe was born, personal choice. And when we got home, of course, the first thing you start wondering is my baby eating enough? Now, they will always tell you that as long as baby is having wet and dirty diapers consistently, that you don't really need to worry. But I think most parents have had at least one kind of worry, especially if you're breastfeeding, about whether your baby is getting enough food or not. And the lactation consultant was kind of for that purpose. So we had a wonderful woman, Barbara, who came to the house, and she was literally like the Mary Poppins of lactation consultants. She had a little bag, she had all these like tools and things like that to help us figure out exactly what was going on and to double check that Zoe was indeed eating just like she should. She was checking the latch, but she taught me a very important skill, which I mentioned earlier. It is how to get the baby off your breast if the latch is not right. Because if the baby is not latched on like she should be, she's not going to feed properly, is going to be more painful than it needs to be, and you just need to stop that nip that in the bud. So she taught me some techniques that I needed to know that I did not know. I didn't even know to like Google this. So without her, I would have never learned that. But most importantly, she gave me the confidence to know that we were doing it right. Everything was going exactly like it was supposed to, and to just give it time. She told me that the pain was normal. She gave me kind of a timeline to expect it to subside a little bit. And she gave me the, I guess, comfort in knowing that it was okay. The baby was eating like she was supposed to. She was getting enough food. She was latching on like she was supposed to, and just to keep at it. And I think even though I researched it and I knew it was gonna hurt, I knew that it was gonna be difficult, all these things, having someone just come in and just give you that extra boost, that extra level of reassurance made a huge difference. And it gave me the security to know, okay, I can get through this. If I just keep going, it will get better and we can carry on with our breastfeeding journey together. So lactation consultant, definitely recommend if you can swing it. The other things that really helped us to succeed as a first-time mom nursing our baby are a little bit more pragmatic and I guess like a little bit more concrete, and it is related to like the nursing process in general. So for us, our baby was born in January. It was cold outside. We weren't really going anywhere anyway. This was pre-lockdown, of course. But I think the next tip or the next thing that helped me to succeed is I couldn't be shy, so don't be shy. You're gonna have your boobs out a lot, especially in the beginning because the baby is cluster feeding, like I mentioned. You're still figuring out your rhythm, your routine of how often the baby needs to feed. And if you're constantly trying to have like a cloth over you or kind of like just be really discreet when you're feeding the baby, it's probably going to end up more frustrating than not for you and the baby. So hopefully you've got a supportive partner that doesn't mind you nursing the baby, you know, in the living room if he's around. And if you are out and about, that you feel comfortable kind of nursing your baby in public. I know it's not necessarily the easiest thing for everyone, but just know that it is natural. And if someone has a problem with it, it's more their problem than yours. Feed that baby. Don't be shy to have the boobies out. At least in the beginning, it's probably going to make your life a lot easier if you kind of get comfortable with the idea of it pretty much straight away, at least while you're at home. So for me, I was just, you know, as soon as Zoe showed any signs of hunger, boobs came straight out and I was feeding that baby. And I think, again, because I was mentally prepared for it, it's not something that made us uncomfortable, and it is definitely one of the reasons that we were able to have such a successful breastfeeding journey so far. It's been almost 8 months, is because I haven't been shy in feeding her. I've never made her wait to eat if I knew that she was hungry, and all of this kind of gave me more confidence to keep going. So don't be shy. Get the boobies out, feed that baby. Another really important thing about our breastfeeding journey that I kind of struggled with in the beginning, but I was able to get it in check relatively quickly, was to not stress. So I mentioned in the beginning I was stressed about how much food the baby was getting, but you'll learn very quickly that the more you stress about it, it actually impacts your milk. So you need to really understand that what you're pumping is not necessarily representative of how much milk your baby is getting. And as long as your baby is having dirty diapers, having wet diapers, your baby is getting enough. Obviously, you want to keep track of their growth chart. You want to make sure that they stay more or less on their curve. But because you're nursing, and unless you're exclusively pumping and then giving bottles, it's impossible to know exactly how much your baby is eating, but that's okay. Don't stress about it, and don't try to kind of increase your supply superficially by doing extra pumping, unless you have to, of course, to build up some kind of freezer stash because you're going back to work. But try as much as you can not to stress about how much your baby is eating, because if you do, it is going to be an unpleasant situation. It's not healthy for you anyway to be overly stressed, and it can definitely impact your milk supply. So again, how much you're pumping is not representative of how much your baby is necessarily eating, because babies are a lot more efficient at getting that milk out than a breast pump is. So don't stress about milk output. As long as your baby seems healthy, is growing, and is hitting their growth chart, then your baby's fine. You're making enough milk. Don't worry. The next thing is crucial. Every video that you will ever watch about having a successful breastfeeding journey is going to mention this. It is drink water, drink tons and tons of water. Now I admit I am not as good now about drinking a lot of water as I was when I was first establishing my milk supply, but it is crucial to being able to feel well in yourself. Now, when I would be in the beginning stages of nursing, if I didn't drink enough water, I would get extremely nauseated, feel super nauseous, and feel sick to my stomach. And it just made the whole process less pleasant. So everybody says it because it's true. You really need to drink a lot of water. And a general rule of thumb, and what I was doing and what my mother-in-law was really helping with when she was over, what my boyfriend was really helping with, is every time I would nurse, I would drink a glass of water. It's that simple. That's how much water you need. And I mentioned that the baby will be cluster feeding in the beginning. So that is a lot of water that I was drinking. So drink lots of water. Make sure that you are getting enough to be hydrated, to create and to make this milk that your baby needs. So drink water. That's super simple. And any first time mom, I'm sure you've heard this a million times. Drink lots of water. You need to while you're breastfeeding. Another thing that really contributed to the success of our breastfeeding journey was I tried to, in any case, be comfortable. Now, this doesn't mean kind of like lounging around in pajamas all day, but let's be honest, I did, at least in the beginning, and I still do. I'm wearing my leggings right now, but be comfortable and wear clothes that are easy to nurse in. So for example, I love wearing t-shirts. I'm always in a white t-shirt, but I wear a tank top underneath and then a nursing bra, which means I can always kind of just easily lift up my top, pull the tank top down, and be able to easily nurse. It is so frustrating when I am out and about and I have forgotten that I've got a baby that I need to feed, and I'm wearing like a cotton dress that I can't nurse in without pulling the entire dress up. Obviously, you can't do that if you're at a right. Well, you could, but I choose not to. So you have to go to the bathroom, you have to take your dress off to nurse the baby, so on and so forth. So just be mindful of what you're wearing, making sure that you're wearing something that is comfortable to nurse in. And the last thing, but maybe the most important thing about our breastfeeding journey so far and what has made it really successful is I have a really supportive partner, and he has always supported my decision to breastfeed. He's never really made me feel uncomfortable if I need to nurse out in public, and he's always been there to get me, make me some food, or making sure that I'm drinking enough water, or just generally making sure that I have everything that I need to be comfortable, healthy, and happy while I'm feeding the baby. Definitely want to give a big thanks to my boyfriend, because without him, I think our breastfeeding journey would have been a lot more difficult and a lot more challenging for me and for the baby. So if you are expecting a baby, or if you have a little baby already and you're trying to get some inspiration and some reassurance that you too can have a successful breastfeeding journey, I hope this video has been helpful. I was very preoccupied about my ability to breastfeed and whether it was going to go well and whether I was going to have all of these different problems, and I did have problems, but because of these tips that I've mentioned in the video, I was prepared for it and I was able to deal with it. And we are almost 8 months into our breastfeeding journey, and it is going really well. So hopefully it continues, and I am very thankful that I have been able to breastfeed Zoe for so long, and hopefully I'll be able to continue for even longer. But it hasn't been an easy journey, and I think one thing that we really need to do is kind of share these types of stories to know that if you're experiencing a lot of pain, it's normal. If your baby is cluster feeding, yes, it's normal. There are things that you can do to make your experience a lot easier and a lot less difficult. And again, hopefully this has given you some hope that you can have a positive breastfeeding journey as well. So thank you for watching today's video. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit the subscription button. I would love to have you around. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in my next video.